Greetings exiles, I'm CodRayZeal, and joining me today as always are Sir Reginald Amadeus Fortescue III and Frank. Say hi guys.
Hi.
Now today we're going to be going over the second Righteous Fire build I did, which is a Scorching Ray Totem and Righteous Fire Hierophant. Now the objective behind this build was to be able to complete endgame bosses, which has gone pretty well except for the Uber Elder, which I'm still trying to figure out how to fix the build to do it. I'm not sure if my totems are dying too much or, well, whatever's going on, I intend to find a solution. That being said, let's go over our gear real quick. First of all, for a helm, since I am a Hierophant and I gain energy shield from my mana, I've opted to take on Memory Vault, which grants us a substantial amount of mana as well as giving us armor equal to the reserved mana, which gives us a bit of extra physical mitigation. For my shield, I've chosen Sapphal's Frame, since this is specifically targeted at the Elder and the Shaper, Uber Atziri and whatnot. I found all maximum resistances is probably a better idea than just fire resistance. For my amulet, I'm using a pretty decent marble amulet, which I crafted myself. It's got all attributes, which boosts our strength and intelligence, which, since we scale energy shield with both our mana and regular energy shield, this gives us a substantial amount of energy shield. It's also got aspect of the crab, but that is for a different build, so you can ignore that. For my chest, I've chosen a Chevron's Wrappings. Since I had no way to regenerate my life and I wanted to go low life, I picked up Chevron's Wrappings because it's the best option for low life. For my rings, I'm using a +3 level of socketed gems unset ring with Purity of Fire in it, and just a regular moonstone ring with some intelligence and mana and energy shield, and just to get some more energy shield. For my belt, I'm using a Shaper belt with some energy shield and some energy shield recovery rate, and also some strength, which boosts our energy shield because of the Shaper's touch. My boots are Sintrek, just because they give us dexterity, they give us intelligence, and they give us a crap ton of energy shield along with 30% movement speed. It's very difficult for rare boots to beat these. For my gloves, I decided to use Shaper's Touch. Since Righteous Fire wasn't my primary focus in this build, I decided to not use some increased damage over time gloves and instead use the Shaper's Touch, which gives me about 1800 energy shield because of the strength conversion. And for my weapon, I've just got a Karui Scepter with elemental focus and some attack speed. This one happened to have some intelligence and mana on it as well, so it boosts our energy shield at the same time. For my flasks, I'm using a sulfur flask which removes freezing. This is important since we have no other way of mitigating freeze and we don't really have a life pool for not getting frozen. Next, I used a Witchfire Brew, the easiest way to apply the Despair Curse without using up sockets or mana. Next, we're using a Quicksilver Flask of Warding. This is just to fix curses and whatnot. The reason I don't have a very fast Quicksilver Flask here is because I'm at the point of this build now where all it does is I log onto it to beat a boss that I can't beat with one of the other builds. Next, since I already have some armor, I opted to go for a Granite Flask, just to boost my armor a little bit more. And lastly, my standard Ruby Flask with Staunching, just to stop bleeds when I see myself degenerating a lot. Next, let's just go over the skill gem setup. In my weapon, I've got my Righteous Fire, which is linked to burning damage and efficacy, while also being linked to elemental focus because it's in the weapon. In my helm, I've got Orb of Storms, linked with increased duration. And then, because the last fight I did was with the Elder, I also have Frost Wall and Spell Cascade in here. Some may know, some may not know, but the Shaper can actually be protected by Frost Wall, so it's a pretty nice thing to bring in, especially with something that doesn't have very reliable targeting against multiple enemies, such as Scorching Ray on a Totem. In my shield, I've got Discipline, linked with Blood Magic, and Empower. Now this reserves a decent amount of our life, keeping us in low life without making us vulnerable to Culling Strike. So I opted for this Empower setup because I didn't really need mana since my totems cost nothing most of the time. You could go a step further here and put this in a +1 shield and just gain another 2 extra levels on Discipline, which is really nice. In my ring, as I mentioned, I have Purity of Fire, at least level 20 in a +3 ring, to get that 5% maximum fire resistance. In my boots, I've got Shield Charge, linked with Fortify and faster attacks, and then I've also just chucked my Golem in there so that he gets Fortified too. In my gloves, I've got Purity of Ice, Purity of Lightning, and Immortal Call linked with Craftsman damage taken. And lastly, in my chest, the main setup, I've got Scorching Ray, linked with Efficacy, Burning Damage, Spell Totem, Minion and Totem Elemental Resistance, just to protect my totems a bit more. And this was actually a solution I came to quite recently and I've still been testing it out. And lastly, Elemental Focus. So that is the gear and skill gems out of the way. So let's just take a quick look at the passive tree and also go over the Ascendancy. So starting with the Ascendancy, since I'm doing a totem build, I picked up Pursuit of Faith and Ritual of Awakening, which gives us massive amounts of placement speed, a little bit of extra regeneration, and the ability to summon 3 totems. Really nice. And then next, because we are low life, I decided I wanted to try out the Divine Guidance Sanctuary of Thought, gain 30% of maximum mana as extra maximum energy shield. And I was decently impressed. It gives me quite a substantial amount of energy shield while also making my totems cost nothing so that I can cast them whenever. Which also allows me to some extent, do no regen maps with my Righteous Fire turned off. It also gives us a decent amount of mana, and the Mind Over Matter effect is lost on us because we have 400 life. A brief overview of the passive skill tree. I just picked up as much energy shield as I could, along with some jewel sockets, which some will take Healthy Mind if there was life nearby. I had the socket at the top with Healthy Mind, but I determined that it wasn't really worth all the points that I was using. I instead picked up some totem nodes because my totems were dying. We get a little bit of mana reservation reduction just so that we can cover the 10% increase from the helm. And then just the standard Righteous Fire fare of regeneration and whatnot. This build is using a Watcher's Eye, which is energy shield regenerated per second while affected by Discipline. The Chaos Resistance is actually for another build as well. And for other jewel sockets, it's important to pick up jewels that have both mana and energy shield, as these give us about 200 energy shield apiece for an average one. And a Spire of Stone, because I found some enemies were stunning my totems, and when a Scorching Ray totem gets stunned, sometimes it behaves peculiarly, so there we are. So that's all the fundamentals of the build covered. I will put a path of building down in the description for people who would like more details. And overall, this build was a success up until the point I got to the Uber Elder, which I didn't suspect would be such a trouble. My totems were dying a lot, and because of the way Scorching Ray works, I wasn't dealing much damage at all, since they need that time to ramp up the damage. But I'll keep trying and keep perfecting the build and see where it goes. For the rest of the video, I've got footage of myself killing the Elder, the Shaper, and Uber-Atziri. The Elder and the Shaper were deathless, and Uber-Atziri I was a bit careless and died a couple of times. So that is it for the build guide portion. Please stick around if you'd like to see the kills of the other bosses. And do subscribe to my channel if you'd like to see the next build, which is pretty much where things start getting a bit more creative. The next builds in the order they're going to come are likely a Trickster, which is also energy shield based, and then an Elementalist, which is doing ridiculous amounts of damage thanks to some interesting scaling options. And then there's an Ascendant, which I'm actually just working on at the moment, so we'll get to that. So with all that said, from myself, Sir Reginald Amadeus Fortescue III, and Frank, we'd like to thank you for watching, and good luck, and stay juicy. And like the video.